are enjoying a holiday off. I am down in Del Rio, Texas, back where it all kind of started for my coverage, really. And so I'm back here along the border. Here's the wall, of course, behind me. This is one of those areas where we typically see people being picked up by Border Patrol agents. It does look like the fence is a little more secure than last time I was here, so they have done a little bit of work on that. Now, we also do know that Governor Greg Abbott has started to kind of construct their own wall as well, and we know the Biden administration started picking up the former administration's wall efforts where that left off. So what I want to talk to you about today is, as we stand here in Del Rio, of course, back in, you guys remember this, in September, there were 15,000 Haitians, most of them Haitians, underneath the international bridge here in Del Rio. Now, during that 2-week span, though, there were 30,000 migrants that had crossed into Del Rio. Now, for some perspective, there are only about 35,000 people in this town. Now, the sheriff tells me something to keep in mind here. Not one of those people have stayed in Del Rio. And that's why this matters to the rest of the country, right? So a lot of us have dismissed what's going on at the border in our country because immigration has happened regularly for decades. That has been something that we have seen in border counties. Now, the thing that really separates this is the numbers we're seeing and at the magnitude that we're seeing immigration, this illegal immigration happening. So it's also this shift of, instead of coming over and sneaking in or, being smuggled in, a lot of them are just coming over and putting their hands up, self-surrendering to border agents. So there's this weird shift that's happening. But right now, what I can tell you in the Del Rio sector is their numbers are higher than any normal time that they've seen, because they've seen a lot of activity in Eagle Pass. Now, Eagle Pass is in Maverick County. Right now, I am in Valverde County, but that is some perspective on just how big these sectors really are. There are 9 stations in the Del Rio sector. So yeah, when you get Eagle Pass, and that's one of those areas where they have a lot of human smuggling and a lot of different issues in Eagle Pass, those numbers have been really high right now. So I'm being told here that they are seeing numbers that are basically outside of management, right? Like that they cannot contain what's going on. But then the interesting thing is the RGV, which is the Rio Grande Valley sector. That is typically the busiest sector that we see. That's where McAllen is. That's where La Jolla is. That's where a lot of the activity is happening. Del Rio sector is surpassing that because of what's happening in these other areas. Del Rio's quiet. Del Rio's quiet. But it's these other outlying areas that are having an impact on the sector here. But I do want to tell you this. I say Del Rio's quiet. However, I was just at the Stripes here, just down the street. It's probably a couple miles. And there are about 20 migrants sitting out there. I would say probably 7 children. Some of them like babies. Can you guys not hear? Somebody's saying they can't hear anything. Can you hear me? I hope you can. Uh-oh. Can you guys hear me? Yes or no? I don't know how to tell. If someone can comment, because I don't want to keep this going if you can't hear me. That's kind of a waste of my time and yours. I don't know if it's because my phone's plugged in, but I need my battery plugged in. So I hope you can hear me. Okay. I'm going to just keep talking because no one's saying that they can. We can hear lots of windows. Okay. Let me go see if I can get my microphone then. Let me go try that. But in the meantime, I'll talk a little bit closer to my phone a little bit here. So I was just at the Stripes, and there are about 20 migrants sitting there with a lot of kids were with them. Some of them like babies, 5-month-old. I asked them where they were from. Family from Venezuela, and then a family from Nicaragua. And they told me that they've been walking for 5 months, that they were going to Los Angeles, but they had no money. They were meeting up with friends, not family. They had no way to get there. What blew my mind, you guys, is this. I said, how did you get here? Why are you here at this spot at Stripes, right? Okay, I'm getting my other microphone, I hope, so that maybe this will help. We'll see. I don't know. But so with that said, they said that Border Patrol dropped them off there. And I said, are you waiting for a charity? Are you waiting for someone to come and get you? And they said no. And I'm like, what do you do then? And they just said, we just sit here. I have no idea what's going on with it. Where are they going? So I think I'm gonna go post up back there and see if like a bus comes or what is happening, because, sorry guys, I'm trying to find my mic. Because that's wild, right? They just get, they just get dropped off by Border Patrol, and then, you know, okay, I have my mic, but it's still windy, but I need my phone. Okay, we're gonna try to do this, like kind of shielded by my car a little bit. Okay, so they get dropped off by border agents at this Stripes, literally in the, like in Del Rio. There's 20 people just sitting there. And I was like, I asked the sheriff, I said, what are these people doing? Where are they going? What's going on? And it's not a local and county thing. As I just was reporting, that this immigration issue is being argued as a federal one. And so, you know, these local law enforcement, they can't do much. And so when I asked, what are these people doing? Where did they go? They don't know. They're waiting. They don't have money. So I'm not sure how they're going to get to Los Angeles, what they're doing. And I want to go sit there and find out, though. They are supposed to have a sponsor. And that's what's interesting, is I was like, is it family? Is it friends? Like, who are you meeting up with? And they were like, no, like amigos. And I was just like, interesting. So yeah, they said that they don't have any money for food. They were hungry. They had no money for a bus ticket. They did not know how they were getting to Los Angeles. So I just thought that was really interesting. Then we just dropped them off. I mean, it's a non-planned plan. I keep saying that's a non-planned plan. That's not right. It doesn't work. So you've got these folks sitting at So the other family was from Venezuela, and they were going to New Jersey, and they had a couple of little kids too. And so those people are just sitting at Stripes right now. And that is exactly what I found a month ago when I was here. So that has not changed. You know, that has not changed at all here in Del Rio. We are still seeing that happening. You know. And to me, that's negligence. If you're going to allow these people to come into the country, we've got basically an open door policy. So if you're going to allow people to come into the country, you're just going to leave them in the interior to figure it out. I mean, they don't even speak English. So I feel like that is negligence. I mean, I know there's a lot of that happening in general when it comes to what's happening at our border, when it comes to national security. That's the argument a lot of people have. And I get that. But again, what I'm seeing, and from where I'm standing, and from where I'm walking, where I walked with migrants for 2 weeks, what's really, really hard is because we have this situation, we are allowing this influx of people to just continue steady flow, right? We are seeing that regularly. The numbers have not gone down. We just put out the first two months of the fiscal year, and it's like 3 times higher than this time last year. You know, I mean, it might be 5 times. I don't know. It's astronomical. We're already at 338,000 unique encounters per CBP, and that's just October and November. Just 2 months. We haven't even gotten December numbers yet. So it's really interesting to see what's happening. So that is that steady influx of people, right? They're only taking what is literally being given to them. It's just continuing. And it's not going to stop until somebody does something. Why would it? And how do you put the toothpaste back in the tube? So I just don't know what the answer is, but I will tell you this. Talking with local lawmakers, talking with local law enforcement, something that I see as a potential solution is to allow county level law enforcement to be more involved, to understand what's going on, to know exactly how many people are coming. They don't know unless they get border information, like Border Patrol agent information leaked. This is their county. Joe Frank Martinez is the highest ranking law enforcement official in Val Verde County, and he half the time is going, where did that come from? Because it's federal versus state, right? So to me, that would be one tiny solution, would be transparency among the agencies working together. And that's it. Transparency is something we're lacking in so many facets of every part of our civilization. That's one of the reasons why I'm not in mainstream anymore. We are not asking questions and holding people accountable and all of these things. But again, what's the solution? You know, our federal government wants to take like a paintbrush and one fell swoop say this is a solution. It's not going to work, because I'll tell you this, I've been in several counties along the border and also down in Mexico and Guatemala, and they all have such unique, crazy problems, completely different. Sheriff Benny Martinez in Brooks County, 40 miles basically off the border, he's got a mobile morgue out there. People are dying in the middle of the fields because they're evading checkpoints. Then you got human trafficking down in McAllen. Then you've got people in the brush crossing the Rio over in La Jolla. Then you've got, you know, Del Rio, everyone's self-surrendering, and they're doing that so they don't have as much of a drug influx. But then you go over to Yuma and you're going to see something like that. So it's really interesting, because what's happening is it's an issue that we want to just go fix immigration. Well, I think you have to start at a county level and figure out what each county needs and what that looks like to secure the border per that necessity, right? You can't just say, here, this is what's going to fix it. Let's make it so that the people can have more work visas. Let's make it so, well, that's not necessarily the problem. So it's going to be interesting to see if anything is done over the next couple of months once these new numbers come out. Because, you know, back in September, Alejandro Mayorkas, a DHS secretary, said our immigration system is broken. And yet we still have not done much when it comes to immigration reform. And so it's really interesting to see. But I will tell you this. So I have been trying to figure out what's going on with all of the minors. We have a lot of kids that have been coming over. I mean, and you guys can always check stats as well. cbp.gov has all the stats if you guys ever want to check them out yourself. But in the El Paso sector, in just, I believe it was a couple months. If my memory escapes me a little bit, I don't feel like it was a couple weeks. But they encountered close to 3,400 unaccompanied minors. So I was trying to figure out, where are they going? Because when I was in Del Rio and we had 15,000 people under the bridge, I said, where are the kids? And they said, the kids' numbers don't come here. They're not here at the bridge. As soon as kids come, they are taken and they go somewhere else. Well, what some border agents have reached out to me to tell me, because we don't get access to a lot of information. Also, as media, Border Patrol's not allowed to talk to us. So it's really hard. Like I said, we've got this state issue and this federal issue, and we're trying to navigate it all and put the pieces together. But what the border agents tell me is that when the unaccompanied minors cross over, HHS comes and gets them. So that Health and Human Services, right? So the kind of, that's who has the kids, but then are they going to foster care? Are they being adopted? Are they linking up with families? And how are they finding those families? What's going on, right? So, okay, HHS has them, but now what? So that is something I have to dig into and find out. And it is a holiday, so no one at HHS is going to respond to me. So I'm going to be digging into that a little bit more, because I do think that's really important. And I know that in Del Rio, in this sector, they were doing some biometrics on the kids, which is a DNA testing, which we did see that back in the Trump administration, and it kind of halted. But I was told by a Border Patrol agent in the Del Rio sector that they had started to do that again. But here's the issue. It's not rapid testing. It's not instantaneous. So, you know, those people aren't in custody for that long. And so it's an interesting piece there. Something else that I think is really interesting is the policies that have been reinstated or, you know, have been kept in place are not necessarily the same policies that we saw under the last administration. And I think that's interesting. The reason I bring that up is because I find that to be kind of like lip service, right? They just want to give something to people, and then people go, oh, well, that's back in place, so everything's fine. Well, Title 42 is the health code that literally was put in place under the Trump administration because of the pandemic. Under Title 42, basically what it did was just made it easier to process people and go back to Mexico. Here's the issue. So it's ironic because it's a health code policy, but once someone touches U.S. soil, if they test them for COVID and they find out that they are COVID positive, they cannot send them to Mexico. They cannot send them to another country. You cannot say, hey, we found out this person is really, really potentially deathly sick and here you go, you can have them. It's not how it works. So there was some speculation that that's why they weren't doing some of the testing, is because if they found out that they were positive, they couldn't send them back. So under Title 42, that is very real. That is happening. I find that very interesting, because you would think under a health code that would stop that. But the issue is, once people get to this country, once people step foot on US soil, they got to deal with it. Border Patrol has to handle it. It's not like they can just look at them and go back. They have to make contact, and they have to process them in some capacity, and then they can send them back if that's what's going on. The other policy that was reinstated that a lot of you guys probably know about is that it was a Remain in Mexico policy. A lot of people were talking about that, and a lot of people were like, oh, well, Remain in Mexico is back in place. Remain in Mexico is back in place. Couple things. 99% of these people aren't from Mexico. So, you kick them back into a country that just gets fed up too, right? That's the levee broke basically in Del Rio. That's why Acuna basically was like, we're not dealing with this anymore. Literally, the Chamber of Commerce president told me, we didn't invite them here and they don't want to stay here. So why would we stop them? They kept them in Acuna for a little while, and then during that Independence Day holiday in September, and the Cuban president was visiting, they just kind of turned a blind eye. They said the offices are closed, cross the river, do whatever you want. So, that's one facet of it. The other thing is, it's not the same policy, and here's why. So Remain in Mexico was a widespread policy that was enacted and upheld by counties all along the border. Now there are only 7 counties that are participating, and each county has a different allocation of spots that they can fill to send back to Mexico. For example, the sheriff in Yuma, Sheriff Wilmot, telling me that on a regular MPP year, so like when Trump put this into place, they could send back 50 people a day. He said now under this policy, we can send back 10. And he said that does not make an impact. It is a drop in the pan or whatever it is. And so he's like, it's not helping. But everybody thinks Remain in Mexico is back in place. And that's why I say it's that lip service, right? It's like, oh, but Remain in Mexico is back in place, because that's what they're telling us. But then these sheriffs are saying, we can't even send anybody back. Del Rio sector, I told you guys, has 9 stations. They can send back 30 people. So what does that look like, and at what point are we going to push back and ask questions and say, you know what, this policy might be in place, but we're going to look into, that's what we're here for. That's what the independent journalists are here for, is to go, that doesn't sound right. So, it's really interesting to see what's going on. El Paso was a completely different situation. I was in El Paso yesterday, and for me, I want to be able to talk to the migrants as well, because I think that you have to have balance in that story. You have to understand their story as well. Good, bad, or indifferent, I don't care. That is my job. And so being in El Paso, it was really difficult because I had no access to the people that were crossing over. They were on federal land. It was BNSF, the railroad was separating me and the wall basically. And so border agents were on that side, and there was a steady flow of people walking in, but I couldn't talk to any of them. I can't do my job if I cannot communicate with them a little bit. And so I was sitting there watching the process, and bus and van after van, continuously dropping people off to be processed. And then those people were taken by bus. And I tweeted a bunch of that stuff too, if you guys want to see it. But it was really interesting because I went and I searched for a couple of different things. I went to the NGOs. Nobody was there. I called the sheriff's office several times. No response. So that is a different experience for me. Since I started covering this in August, I have had some really good access, because people want to talk about what's happening. Law enforcement officials want people to know what's happening. And so it was an interesting situation there, because it was like, okay, so maybe they're good. Well, seeing a steady flow of people walk in, maybe that's their good. But to me, that didn't look like it was contained, and it didn't look like it was under control from my perspective. We flew a drone up because I was out there working on a project with someone, and just watch people cross the river and walk right over. It's the same thing that's happening all over the border. So a couple of different things that we've definitely got to dig into. Of course, what's going on with the kids. If you guys have other questions, things you want me to try to answer for you, I'm going to do my best. I drove myself down here from Washington State so that I could have the freedom to be where I want to be, when I want to be there, and for however long. So I'm doing kind of a border tour, and if there are places I need to be, let me know. If there are things I need to check out, let me know. I have all the time in the world and no real destination. So we're digging in, guys. We're gonna figure this out. I want to kind of wrap this up, not wrap it up like be done, because this is not done, but I want to get some of these questions answered that we still have. Now, one of those questions is this. Several times I have asked, why? Okay, so at the end of this wall is literally the port of entry. I should drive over there so you guys can see just how close it is. The bridge that those 15,000 people were under is the port of entry, okay? So I was like, why, if you're self-surrendering, why don't you go up there and do it? Like, I feel like that would be kind of the best route, you know? No, because apparently what's going on is if they go and self-surrender up at the, you know, the actual checkpoint to border agents, they will get a number, ticket, whatever, and they will get sent back to Mexico to wait. So they're not doing that. Okay, so that's why. So I figured that out. I got that answer. So we're gonna keep charging on, keep digging in. Again, I appreciate you guys. It's been a whirlwind of a trip already. I think I'm on day 5. Left Washington State on Wednesday morning, I think, yes. And so, yeah, I got my dogs with me as well, and we're just looking for some truth, right? So take care of yourselves, be good, be safe. I appreciate you. We'll talk soon.